What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining me on another FCP Euro DIY. Today we are going to be working on a 2020 BMW 330i xDrive. Today on the G20 behind me, this is a B48 4-cylinder turbo equipped car. We are going to be covering a complete coolant refresh. We're going to be breaking up this series of videos into 6 videos. 1 going to be the radiator replacement, 2 the heat module, aka your thermostat, 3 your water pump and pulley, 4 is going to be the oil cooler slash oil filter housing, 5 will be your expansion tanks for both the low temp and high temp circuits, and 6 being the serpentine belt and tensioner. For the focus of today's DIY, we are going to be looking at the serpentine belt and tensioner. Since we are doing a cooling system refresh in the series, there's going to be a lot of overlap. And to get to the serpentine belt and tensioner, it's pretty much going to be the same work that is going to require to get to the water pump. So we're going to replace that while we're taking everything apart. It should be pretty straightforward. And again, with most of these videos, while you may not need coolant to do the belt and tensioner, it's going to be, again, one of those, well, you're already that deep, you might as well do everything at once. So be sure to check those other videos out if you want to see how to replace any of these other components. With the belt and the tensioner, the belts typically will last you anywhere up to 100,000 miles. That's not to say that they can't last longer or fail earlier. Sometimes, depending on the conditions that your car lives in, the rubber can dry rot quicker. If you have leaks, if you have a coolant leak or an oil leak, that's going to degrade the belt sooner than later. Same thing with the tensioner. You know, if you have a leaky housing somewhere that's getting oil on the pulley or anything like that, that's going to degrade the plastic as well as the bearing. Usually you can start to hear a tensioner fail, maybe a little bit of a squeak on startup or a continuous squeak if the tensioner is really that bad. It's a pretty straightforward system, but it's super important as now modern day BMWs like this B48 have a mechanical water pump. So if that belt falls off or slips or whatever it may be, that can cause your pump to not work and lead to engine failure. So definitely avoid that. It should be a pretty straightforward DIY, but before we get into that, let's take a look at some of the tools we're gonna need. All right, for this DIY, we have a large pry bar, we have a torque wrench, 3/8 half-inch drive ratchets with some extensions and adapters for both. We have a couple picks and a flathead screwdriver. We have some pliers. These are gonna help release the PCB lines. My right hand is useless right now, so anything that I can use to help me with my lefty is gonna be helpful. You may not need these for that. We have some rivet removal pliers, as well as a little pry tool, whichever one comes in handy. For sockets, we have a 16, a 13, a 10. We have an E12, an E10, and E8 for specialty sockets. A paint pen, some electric impact tools, both are 3/8 drive. Again, I always recommend watch the video from the beginning to the end in case you are trying to play along at home. Maybe we throw a tool in or maybe we totally get rid of one. Let's roll the dice on that though, but for us to find out and for you to watch. Now with that, let's go ahead and get started. Something that can come off now is also our beauty cover. This just lifts up and you can set it to the side. All right, we're just gonna work our way around our airbox here. We have an electrical connector here that we're gonna undo. With these, you want to free up the little gray tab, just unlock it. Little flathead screwdriver, nice and gently works. Then you can press on the tab and pull back. If you need to, you can use the flathead to pry and release that. You'll see there's a little alligator clip here. We're just gonna pop that off of the intake here using a little flathead. These can be a little bit stubborn if they've never been off before. I have to switch over to a pick tool. But this is gonna be a common theme throughout this DIY. There might be wondering, what DIY? All of them. And then for now, we'll just pull it back and tuck it somewhere over the valve cover. From here, we have another alligator clip that rides onto the top of our silencer. We just need to free that one off of the, we'll call it the airbox assembly. All right, that can stay loose for now. If you can see right next to that, we have another little gray connector here. We're gonna release that baby up. Following this line, we're gonna go to this PCB line right here. We have 2 ridge sides to this connection that goes on top of our valve cover. We're gonna pinch on both sides then lift my line off. There we go. I just use these pliers. My right hand is out of commission, so I'm a little limited to what I can do with my left hand, but squeezing these two tabs helps release that. As we pull out this whole thing, I think what we're gonna do here is disconnect our plug on top of our turbo here. And that's just gonna help free up this harness so that we don't have to really worry too much about bending things around to clear that as we pull out the air box. So this will give us a little bit more working room. Again, just a little gray lock there. Once it's out, press down, pull that baby back, and this can swing up here as well. That'll be out of our way. To give us a little bit more room to see exactly what we're breaking here, we're gonna undo this flathead clamp and just separate the air box from the rest of the intake. It's gonna make our lives a little bit easier. Thread this baby back together, and we'll throw that back on our air box once we pull it out. These are just held in by rubber grommets. You can pull it out as a whole and then set this to the side. Now with that off, we can see a little bit better what we have going on. Here's that vacuum line down here at the bottom. These clips are toast just from touching them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna release the feed from the turbo. You can see just a little bit on the top, part of that quick disconnect clamp, similar to the coolant lines. You can also see it underneath the diverter valve. Take a peek from underneath. So now we're gonna release the clip going to our turbo from the inlet, and that way we can try to pull this whole assembly towards us a little bit and get that last PCV line out. It's okay if this flings off, just don't forget to reattach it after the fact. Now we should be able to pull this back. If it's still hung up, then more than likely your clip is still doing something, in which case you can continue to remove it or pull it off the rest of the way. I'm gonna reach in there for one sec. Now we're gonna squeeze these two together again, do our best to try to get this line off. Although these tabs are cooked from living so close to the turbo, we might have to replace them, in which case we will drop that in the video description below. All right, and with that, we can pull this assembly out. We have our charge pipe here, which you can see now clearly goes down here. So we're gonna undo that clip similar to the one we just did at the turbo inlet. We have two electrical connectors. Then we have a couple Torx holding this on to the throttle body. So let's start with the electrical connectors. We'll disconnect those first, and then we'll move on to the Torx, then the clip at the bottom, and we'll pull this baby out of our way. We have 3 T30s. I'm gonna start blasting these off. Here's our bottom one, closer to the alternator, the extended T30. Pull back, gentle pull back, and look at all the room that gives us. I'm gonna set this baby to the side, and then we'll go from there. Next, we'll undo our little electrical connector. We have a 10 mil down below holding the clamp together for this auxiliary pump. And then that pump can come out. We'll leave the bracket with the pump, and I'm gonna throw the 10 mil nut bracket here so that we don't have to guess where that goes later. And then we'll probably fight with it later when we're dealing with this hose. All right, moving on, you can see on this little damper cover, this little resonator cover that we have on the front of the engine block, we have a couple more alligator clips here. We're going to release these so that when we pull this cover off, this harness can kind of do its own thing. So there's one. We have one more here. I'm just going to open up this baby here. The other thing we can probably do is just pull the rivet out of the cover here, but sometimes that can rip too, depending on how old the stuff is. Let's see if we can, no, that one's putting up a little bit of a fight. So I'm just trying to split this clamp open here. It's easier said than done. There we go. All right. Wonderful. We have one more alligator clip that goes to the lower auxiliary pump here, and down below you can see the connector for it. I don't really think this will be in our way, but just for sake of filming and giving you the best view, we're going to go ahead and undo it. So let me separate the alligator clip off the auxiliary pump first. And then if we follow that down, we'll see our electrical connector down below. I'm going to unlock that gray tab as carefully as I can. Now with that, we have a couple expanding rivets to remove to get this little cover off. So let's work on that next. I'm just going to use a little flathead screwdriver to try to pop these babies open. You can use rivet removal pliers, which we have, but I mean, again, you don't have to add more tools than already needed to this list. Let's just keep it nice and simple here, shall we? We have a third one hiding behind the auxiliary pump that we just did the electrical connector from. It's going to be a little bit sneaky to record, but it is there. In the sky. I'll get that one after. We have one more here on the bottom corner. That's going to be right down there on the bottom left. All right. Here's a better view of that cover. We had rivet 1, rivet 2, 3 behind the auxiliary pump, and 4. We're gonna clean this up, set it to the side. Now we have the charge pipe out of the way. We have obviously the charge pipe out. We have the acoustic cover out. We have our auxiliary pump out completely because we are doing cooling system work on this car. Otherwise, just undoing the 10 mil on the clamp and pulling the pump out of the way with the 2 lines connected still is going to be just fine. You don't have to drain the coolant for this. Next, we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to remove the throttle body out of our way so we have a bit more room to the alternator hardware. And then we'll show you how to lock the tensioner in a serviceable position. So if you're just looking to do the belts or the whole thing, we'll show you how to lock that out first and then go from there. So we have an E-Torx up top here for the support bracket going to the throttle body, and then 3 10mm bolts. We also have an electrical connector, which we'll tackle after we detach it from the intake manifold. So let's get that E-Torx off, the 3 10mm, and go from there. Next, we're going to free up this coolant line and this harness for our throttle body from this bracket, which we will be removing in just a moment. These are just like an alligator style clamp. Here you can just go in with a little flathead and release it. You can also just pop the whole thing off of the metal bracket, but the rivet might be a one-time use situation depending on the age of your vehicle. We also have another clamp here for the cable that goes to the throttle body connector. That just opens up. And just be mindful that this one fed through the bracket assembly when you go to put everything back together. I'm just going to tuck it up and out of the way for now. All right, we have a couple E-Torx here on the cylinder head to remove so we can get this bracket out of our way. We have 2 E8s, so let's get these out. We have one more line here that's being secured by another clip, part of the harness. Let's get that off too. They're a little buried, so it's okay if you miss them. You'll notice them as soon as you try to remove everything. I'm just opening up this clamp from the back side. This is what this clamp looks like right here. It's just a bigger version of this. Here's that clamp from the other side, similar to that smaller one. We'll set this to the side with the 2 E8s we pulled out. To give you a better idea of what we're about to do, this is our new tensioner. So you can see the 3 bolt holes. That's what bolts this to the face of the alternator. Right now, this is locked in the detensioning position, meaning you could remove or install a belt on it as it sits. Here is our pin tool. So we have another one here that is its own BMW part number. You could probably use something similar if you have something lying at home, or you've done other tensioners in the past, or maybe even a small drill bit. You just want it to be solid enough to be able to hold the spring strength on the tensioner. When we put our 16mm socket on this and detension our tensioner on the car, we're going to be paying close attention to this hook here and then aiming for the hole that's on the back side so we can lock the unit in the car. So this is just a little bit of a clearer view of what we're trying to achieve in the car right now. So you can see on the back side here is our little hook, if you will, on the face of the tensioner. So we get our 16 on here on the front side. Make sure we have it in the correct position. So that's as far as it goes. And while you may not be able to see it, I'm going to feel for that opening on the back side. There it is, it's in. Tensioner is locked. And now we can pull our belt off. If you were reinstalling this belt for any reason, just be sure to put it back the way it came out. All right, so as you can see, we are running into a small problem, and that's because Mike skipped the step. We have a 10 mil nut down below on this lower auxiliary pump. We're gonna undo that, similar to the one we did up top, free that pump from the retaining bracket, and then we can pull the belt off all the way. Now we have our belt out. The next step is going to be working on the tensioner, and as you can see, it's going to be a little bit tight, but no problem. Let's get to it. We have 3 13mm bolts to remove from our alternator. And with those off, we can lift up our old tensioner, and it's off. Without moving things too much, let's throw our new one right on. Get it nice and lined up. I will just sink these down gently on the soft setting with the electric impact, and then we'll torque them down. We're going to torque these 3/13 to 28 Newton meters. All right, we're going to feed our new Continental belt. We're going to slip our belt around the bracket for our auxiliary water pump. Get that baby fed over the AC compressor, over the crank, over the alternator. Because it's a new belt, it can be a little bit harder to massage in here than your old one. So just take your time, don't get frustrated. So we have our belt on, so you can see it loops over the alternator pulley, straight down to the AC compressor, down through everything over the crank pulley, back and over underneath the water pump pulley, underneath the tensioner between the alternator and tensioner, and then over the alternator pulley again. So pretty straightforward. Doesn't hurt to take a picture, but hopefully this video is here to help too. 16 mil socket, let's new tensioner, we'll pull the pin out and we're good to go. So now that we have our belt back on, we are going to throw our bracket back on that holds our coolant lines here on the side of the intake manifold. It just clips right in. There it is. Then we'll feed in the expansion tank line up top. With those situated, we can go ahead and throw our throttle body back on. We'll get our bracket back on, our supporting bracket, run our wiring through, and then go from there. All right, we're gonna secure our lower auxiliary pump once more into its little plastic housing. I had threaded the 10 mil nut back onto the stud earlier so that I didn't lose it. So I'm gonna take that off. And you can see the latch is going over the stud. I'm going to reach in for a moment, get that 10 mil nut back on, and then we'll snug it up. All right, we're gonna feed our acoustic cover back on. We're gonna get our 4 expanding rivets started. Get those babies lined up. There's 1. 2 is gonna be behind these lines. Just why we keep the auxiliary pump out and out of the way. 3 is gonna be in the lower left corner. So there's the rivet there, then we're gonna push it in. And then 4 down below our lower auxiliary pump. A little bit tight to see, but you can just get in there. All right. With that baby in, let's get our auxiliary pump bolted back up to the bracket. We have our auxiliary pump electrical connector, which we had swung up over here. That's gonna come back down and plug in to the bottom of our pump right up front there. All right, alligator clip off the pump bracket right here. This line runs off the front here on this little clamp. And then this guy was also clipped to the acoustic cover right in front of this lower coolant line. So pretty straightforward, just keeping everything nice and tidy. Oh, you know what? This is gonna have to run behind the two coolant lines. Just taking off the 10 mil that I situated on here before. We're gonna get this baby on, back over its stud. Get that 10 mil nut back on. And let's snug up that 10 mil with the electric ratchet once more. While we're here, we can also plug in the auxiliary pump. All right, we're gonna get our charge pipe back in, get that fit in here underneath the turbo. There we go. Hear that little click. That means we're locked in. Give it a little bit of a twist. Helps heat that O-ring. We're gonna lock this baby up over here. This is gonna key in to the throttle body so that it sits in proper, and then we'll get the 3 T30s started. I'm just gonna use the 1/4 inch ratchet to give them a gentle snug. Torque spec for these T30s are 8 Newton meters, not a whole lot. So we're just gonna give them a little cinch. I'm taking this car right back apart after this video. But 8 Newton meters if you want to put a torque wrench on it. We have an electrical connector here and an electrical connector here that we need to plug back in. This one can go in right here. You'll see that most of these wires kind of rest in their natural spot of where they want to be. And we got this one right here. Alligator clip. All right, let's continue on with the next few bits. All right, we're gonna feed in the silencer portion of our box. This goes right into the turbo inlet. Before we click that baby all the way in, I'm gonna get that evap line situated onto here first. Beautiful. So plug this baby in. Let's wrap this underneath these other two. Okay, beautiful. Now we can click this all the way into the turbo. Give it a couple pulls, make sure it's not gonna come out. We'll hook up that other evap line up top in a little bit. All right, let's take care of our diverter valve. That one's gonna run through the front here of this evap line. Click that baby in. That's gonna bite down on this air box right there. This can plug back into the valve cover, like so. All right, that's locked in down there. We have one more evap line that runs from the vent valve, or it's a 2-piece vent valve and the intake manifold down to the inlet feed by the turbo, so we can clip those babies in next. Here is our old one that we pulled off, and you know, the top one is in pretty good shape, the one with the sensor on it still, but we do carry all of them individually. So we bought both of them, and I'm gonna join them here. That one's good to rock, and then we'll hook them up. Let's hook them up over here to the turbo side of things first. We have our electrical connector right here. All right, that baby's all situated. Now let's get the other part of our airbox in. It's easier to feed these grommets back into the strut tower than to try to install it with the airbox. So if they came up with you, just take them off. All right, this baby is nice and situated. Let's get it plugged back in. That's gonna be this connector right here. Lock that baby in. Alligator clip right here. Boom. All right, with our cowling back together, we have our weather strip seal in for the hood, beauty covers on, Intake is back on. That is going to conclude this DIY for today. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you'd like to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. And you can also check out the other 5 in this cooling system overhaul series. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next one.